skillful becomes attractive. High status in the society is an attractive feature. And showing virtue is an attractive feature. So these are the things we start selecting for now. And these are all things that are demonstrations of having a really good brain. So having a good brain is something for which we're selecting. So now we're selecting for smarts, right? Skill. So if that's what's going on, starting 50,000 years ago, we see this counter-dominance thing going on to language and aggressors being executed. So selecting against reactive aggression leads to a reduced aggressive anatomy, reduced sexual dimorphism, and so on. And we get a whole syndrome going, and it's in a loop. And this loop finally leads to behavioral modernity. And it hasn't stopped. The self-domestication is still going on. But we can talk about this in a minute, but we now know what domestication means and how it works, right? It's that delayed or smaller neural crest development. We've seen examples in the wild, and we've seen examples in ourselves that kind of prove it. So, anybody have any thoughts or questions or ideas they want to discuss on this topic? Now's your chance. Do you believe it, or do you think it's all hogwash? What do you think? Hi, neurons. Talk to us. Hi there. Put your megaphone on, please. Put your megaphone on.
Hi there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you spoke about chimpanzees, and there's a lot of accuracies about what you said there. There's an island there called the Chimpanzee Island. So people go there just to study the behaviors of chimpanzees, and we go in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, and late in the evening, and we study their behaviors. And I've been doing that for a while, and they're like 99% close to us, and we are close to them in the same way. They fight all the time, so you were accurate about that. But the few that were somehow raised with humans were a bit more friendly to humans, and they did not show any aggressions. The rest, even though they see humans all the time, but they weren't that close, always were ready to like attack. So whatever you mentioned just reminded me of my days in that and how they behave. Very interesting.
Yeah, I wish I could have been there with you. That must have been great.
It was amazing.
One of the things that you notice in wild animals is if there's a reward associated with your behavior, they can become accustomed to you. I lived next door to a man who had not tamed, he looked at it that way, but squirrels would come up to him and eat nuts out of his hand, right? They were still wild squirrels, and if threatened, they would have bitten him, but he got them used to the fact that he could hold out his hand, he wouldn't move, there'd be nuts in his hand, the squirrels would come and they'd eat the nuts. Kind of like the chimpanzees becoming accustomed to the people coming and going on the island, and not being harmed by the humans. Chimpanzees are pretty smart.
Oh, one more thing. You spoke about like chimpanzees' children. So one of them gave birth, and she's not a dominant female, and she gave birth to a chimp. And all the females started fighting with her to the point where they were pulling her baby, and they broke the baby's arm. And what they had to do is remove that baby. Sorry. You hear me now? So they removed the baby, the infant chimpanzee, and that's why that chimpanzee was raised with humans, because after that infant chimp has broken its arm and leg, because all the other female chimps started fighting, they wanted the baby. They removed that chimp, and that's why that little chimp was raised with humans, and especially that chimp was super friendly with humans. So you're right about the fighting for babies and wanting to keep them.
Yeah. I have somebody in the back there. Marlon, did you want to say something?
Hello, but I would like to comment about the topic that human brain size was decreasing, and actually I believe this is a success in metabolism. And recently I read a topic about the metabolic rate in human being compared to apes. We showed that every single unit of cells have a greater rate of chemical reaction compared to apes, and as well as uh, when we compare the age of the human beings metabolism, like eating uh, energy foods as well, we do have a rate that in the childhood he eat a lot, and this keeps within divided into three stage from 0 to 20 and 20 to 60 and 6 to the rest of the age. And this was a great kind of steady showcase that we have a great success in single unit uh, cell resolution in metabolism, and I believe that's the reason why the brain size decrease is not such a disaster. But say this is it's crucial to the high resolution of cells we do have. Yeah, that was our lecture.
Mm. Oh, interesting. Our brains do retain plasticity all of our lives, which is another thing that's rather uncommon. You know, they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And the reason that saying it has some truth to it is because dog brains are not as plastic throughout their lives as human brains stay plastic throughout their lives. Another thing, you know, I talked about chimpanzees becoming independent, happening at an early age, like 3, 4 years old, where it's 5 years old to 7 years old for bonobos. In humans, we don't become independent. It depends on what you mean by independent, but until you're around between the ages of 15 and 18, that's when humans really become independent. I mean, why do you go to college? Why do your parents send you away to college when you're 18, right? It's because now you're independent and you're hard to live with. But our brains aren't really locked in until we're in our 20s, and our plasticity doesn't stop. I'm 74. I'm still learning stuff. Soon to be 75. Anybody else? Thoughts, questions, ideas?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Please go ahead.
Go ahead.
And that strategy ethic was also used during the colonial periods here in Africa, because the colonialists powers that were at that time used to take away, to sell as slaves, only the strongest and only the smartest. And
Right.
it somehow continues even today, because the smartest student in a university will be given a scholarship to Europe or to US, and so we have a lot of brain drain from Africa. So there are also external effects caused by by political establishments that has probably changed the way how people behave or think.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that happened in Europe in the Middle Ages is the smartest person in the village would be sent away to train for the priesthood. And he was supposed to come back and be celibate, right? And of course, they seldom were. But if they had actually been celibate, that would mean that the smartest guy didn't get to reproduce. That would be a terrible situation, wouldn't it? So, you know, we can easily muck ourselves up by doing the wrong behaviors and rewarding the wrong behaviors and not rewarding the right behaviors. So I'm glad you made it, Ozzy, but you came in awfully late.
Sorry, yeah, it's been late.
Missed you yesterday, by the way.
Thank you. This is so cool. I'm wondering, Mendes didn't have any recording for me, and I'm like, what was so interesting? Everybody told me that it was really fun, the conversation yesterday.
There's no recording of this talk. There might be one online. There might be one online. If you go to redbankhumanists.org,
Mm-hmm.
you can look there. There's a link there to a whole bunch of talks that were up on YouTube.
I wish I
You
could
might
make
be
it
able to find
more to your event so I could record it. I recorded, but the very last part of the lecture and just the discussion. And I was leaving the room and I was of AFK, but I had the recording to watch it later and think about the things that you said. And only speaking of the self-domestication of humans, I think there's an interesting point that I think the millennials, being a millennial, I feel that a lot of us are more childish than older generations. We look younger, we behave as if we're younger because we are gonna have extra life, like 20 years of extra life probably because of the life expectancy being increased, and we know how to manage our mental health. We are free enough, and we live in a civilized world, and I believe that's why we become a little bit more childish. And some people start having behaviors that are domestication. I think always means the change for behaviors from behaviors that are necessary for survival to some behaviors that are just fun. Look at these dogs that we select them for being ugly and funny, which is so wrong because it's not the feature that is going to save your life if you live in the forest. That's such a different way of evolution. So with humans, it's the same. We start seeing more deviant behaviors, maybe because of the population, who knows, maybe because of the domestication, the change of lifestyle, and people get more domestic. It is true. We spend more time at home. We have docile men, more and more of them.
It's a complicated issue, right?
It is.
But there are
Life
a lot
is
of factors.
complicated.
We're still evolving.
Yep, every
Could
day.
you turn your megaphone on because you're not.
Oh.
Loud. But we're still evolving, and a lot of our current evolution is being caused by things we don't even think about. Things like
Data
the amount of
processing?
plastics that we're imbibing on a regular basis, and they affect our hormones, and that affects our behavior, and then maybe those behaviors get selected for or not. Taking birth control pills affects
Yeah,
your
success.
selectivity,
Focus
as a
on
woman.
success.
And
Having
that-
money. Yeah.
and that's going to impact who you select
Selection.
mate for, and that's going to impact our evolution going through time. The microbiome that you have affects your behavior, and that's going to affect selectivity. And there's just thing after thing after thing that we don't even think about. And most of this stuff that I'm talking about is within the last 15, 20 years.
30 years. The internet
That's
appeared
impacting us.
30 years ago. MRI, the only way to see how our neurons fire and work instead of EEG, something that is more particular for and needed for neurology, it's been invented 30 years ago, and it's still very expensive, and not all parts of the world have access to it to measure some things basically and have full scale of research on how to be happier, how to be more successful, how to be a better human, how to develop your other alternative personalities, and how to get your skills ready for life at early stage and then middle stage, then different ages. How to be a happy family person, right? To be a good husband, we are not educated about that. Only from our families, that's it. We don't have so much information we don't have information from other countries that's starting there. Only now in VR, I realize that we lack direct, contact in real world, because of the languages, of access to the internet, to VR, to just sheer intelligence. Not all people want to develop in this way. If they have a chance, they will choose something more entertaining. Oh, fun. Bright colors, Instagram, Louis Vuitton, or something. That if they're more successful, they might choose that development instead of intellectual development or spiritual development. So that's also a ticket to some communities. And there's so much that we're selected for, and I think it's multiplied. Look at the progress of this humankind. It's is crazy. It's accelerating so quickly. It's hard to, ignore that. AI is developing so quickly. It's a factor that is one-time event in our entire history of the universe, probably. Who knows? Allegedly, if you are based on
Well,
facts.
here's a question. Here's a question, though. Given that we have been doing selective breeding amongst humans for a long time, should we make an effort to actually control how humans breed? This has been done in the past.
Yeah,
There was a
eugenics.
movement, the eugenics movement, where they sterilized people that were considered to be idiots.
Nazis. The Nazi would do that. That was cleansing. That's why they
Nazis.
hated some nations, and they hated stupid people or people who were not Aryan enough, let's say. Like they used this term,
Right.
Aryan. Is that
They
how
were
you pronounce
considered
it?
subhuman
Yeah,
by
yeah.
the Nazis.
Untermensch, right? The Nietzsche talked about the superhuman, right? The quality, not the quantity. So I think it's time. There's still. That's why I'm so interested in your lecture about emergence. I think what we are experiencing, and we don't even realize that, but we clearly are at the verge of understanding that we have stepped into the era where the quantity started, being abundant, and now we have to switch to quality, and that's where eugenic kind of naturally comes to my mind, because 8 billion is a lot. We don't need more. We need better. So we should start selecting for that. I don't know. People think it's very unethical, eugenics.
Yeah, but we're doing it. We're not the eugenics way, but we are doing it through selective breeding. Rich people marry rich people.
Yes,
Scientists
exactly.
marry scientists. People that go to Harvard tend to marry people that go to Harvard.
Or Stanford.
And people that are poor and live in poor communities tend to marry into that poor community. So
Yeah, ghettos and, reservations.
yeah, we are doing selective breeding, and we've been doing it for a long time. And in fact, it's part of language, the English language anyway. I don't know about other countries, but the English have talked about, does she come from a good family? Who are her parents? Is she well bred? That's the
That's
thing.
important.
You don't marry below your status, because that would be bad breeding. There's a lot of that's been going on for thousands of years. Jojo,
But what about?
put on your megaphone, please. Put on your megaphone.
Yeah, on your right, you'll have the host tools. The host tools on your right. Yeah, and there's megaphone. Amplify myself. Yeah, great.
Thank you. But how do you explain, there's people that will not marry into their own societal class. Like, for example, there's guys that go to trips just to marry young girls from other countries. Like, there's guys that are super rich, they will still marry somebody who's poor.
Yeah, but that's not for reproduction. That's just for sex, right?
You think?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
There are cases where people will marry someone from a different stratum. Usually their parents are against it, but when they do that, very often they become attracted to something about that person, and maybe it's their intelligence, maybe it's their skill, or maybe it's just their physical attractiveness.
Yeah. Can I?
I think it is good to say that we are talking objectively, not subjectively, because of course there are those cases where somebody will marry across the class.
Sure.
Of course, in this lecture we are talking about
Oops, sorry.
an objective and collective rather than an individual.
No, but the problem here, you see, is that what the lecturer spoke about is absolutely true. It's scientific facts, and it's really informative. But to determine the outcomes which are non-scientific is a contradiction, in my opinion. Like, how do we know what goes on inside the head of somebody? We can see the changes that happen to it over time, and we can see certain behavior shifts within because of those changes, but to actually determine that, you know what, that's inside somebody's heart. I don't think we have the authority to say that as a finality.
Can I share real quick?
And also, you have to admit that it causes society. It has caused a lot of society, classification. I mean, when we talk about the richer getting richer and the poor getting poorer, I'm sure what Ron is talking about is part of that equation.
Yeah.
Yeah, hierarchy.
Ozzy, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, of course, there's so much I want to say. Actually, we discussed hierarchy just 1 or 2 events ago, and the majority of participants, they said that it's almost an innate quality of our societies. It's almost inevitable. There's always going to be inequality because some people are better, smarter, faster, and some people are not. And there's always like a class system almost in every large system where there are people involved. So people need hierarchy. It's the way we prioritize and choose our leaders. That's the problem.
This is evolutionary baggage. The whole hierarchy thing comes from the time when humans were selecting, when males were fighting for dominance, so that
tournament species,
the alpha male could do all the impregnating, right? So if you had more testosterone than the guy next to you, you tended to be a bigger, more powerful male. And because you were the biggest, most powerful male, and you had the most testosterone, you got to make all the females being the alpha, and then all of your male offspring more testosterone. And that's why we have that whole hierarchical thing going on, because the guy at the top of the hierarchy got to have the most offspring. And anything that you do that leads to a greater viability of current and future generations is going to get passed on. So this hierarchical structure being driven by testosterone still exists.
Do you think people say that it's almost innate? Do you think it could be overcome? Just a final question.
As a rational human, you might be able to overcome it, but if you're driven by your hormones, it's really hard. I mean, what happens when you're an adolescent male and you're getting erections in class for no reason? You're sitting at your desk, and right, guys, this happens to you. You're sitting at your desk, you're 12 years old, and you're getting an erection and praying that the teacher doesn't call on you.
Erection.
And it's because you're filled with testosterone all of a sudden, and your body's reacting to it. And you can rationally say, I don't want this, but there it is. You can't make it go away. And your behavior all through your adolescence is
dictated.
It's all about sex. It's all about sex for a long time. And it drives your behavior. And you can rationally say, I don't want to be like this, but good luck.
But you could use that.
The rest of it is for it to happen
It might shock you,
when
but
you're in
go through that
the church.
Don't talk all at once.
I was going to say that women go through the same thing, only that for us it's not visible.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. Thanks.
I'm saying the worst for it is to happen in church rather than class, because of course it makes you beat up yourself. But Ron, because I think our time is running out, and my question to you will be: there are rumors that our space will be shutting down. Do you have plans to, in case that happens? I don't know, but in case that happens, do you have plans to move on to another platform? And another question: do you have a YouTube channel where you post these, whether you give these talks rather than our space, just in case the worst come to happen and we no longer have this space?
Yeah,
Discord is good.
Where I live, there is a humanist organization that invites me to come and speak. And when I go there, they videotape me, to use an anachronism. They video me, and then they put it up on YouTube. So you can find me on YouTube, if you want to look for me there.
What's the name of the channel?
It's Red Bank Humanists.
Red Bank Humanists?
Bank Humanists.
Paul, let me know if you find it before I find it. I'll share it with you if I find it. Yeah, I have just one
Also-
recording of your event, 1984. The full recording has the full lecture and I think even discussion after it.
I have it too.
Yeah, it had like 44 watches. I'm like, yeah, finally people get access to it. Your community actually liked it and they liked the recording because we can't always make it to your events, but they're so valuable and I appreciate your lectures so much that I've been following you for like maybe 2 years or so. So I would love to have, and by the way, I can tell everybody that Ron actually shared his some of his slideshows. That's the only way I can get some like holistic understanding of his lectures without recordings. So maybe you could do that
If you
too.
join my Discord,
Yeah, Discord is the best.
you can request a copy of my slide deck and you're welcome to it. I've even had somebody, I forget where they live, but they wanted all my slide deck so they could do their presentations in their native language using my slides.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that was me
That's fine with me.
at least once.
I could try that in Africa. I would want to see the people's response. But something as he said there that is very worrying. We are here now, right?
I
Yeah.
heard just yesterday.
5 of us.
Yeah, just today
Yeah,
somebody
we are 5 of
said.
us.
Yeah, Paul. I think there's some
Let me
good
finish
news.
this, Aze.
Yeah, good news. Somebody said that it's just rumors and they're gonna continue. It's gonna stay and it's not gonna fall. But I like the idea of exchanging
There's something I
personal.
wanted to say. There's something
yeah,
I wanted
email.
to say before I talked about our space going down. I wanted to say that there's something you said about everyone, going everywhere for fun. People are no longer interested in intellectual dialogues, and that to me is very much worrying. I mean, we are only 5 of us here, and one can tell from the title of this event. When I saw it, my heart pumped because Ron, you don't do this every Sunday or Saturday. You do
No.
it once in a while. So we have to
Once a
plan
month.
for it because we don't know when it's gonna happen. But
You
even
know,
when
it-
people come, they love the lecture. But where are they now?
Supposedly.
And that's a very worrying trend. Because just like as he said, people like the colorful, people like the Louis Vuitton, but they don't want to sit down and have intellectual dialogues.
But it's up
If
to
you wanna
us.
go
It's up to
church,
us to
Wall Street
develop
is
this
a great
community.
place for that. Geez, yeah. Supposedly, if you join my channel, you get an email every time I post that I'm going to present. But people tell me that doesn't happen. So I contacted support, and they tell me it does happen. So I don't know. Maybe it's going into your junk mail folder.
Maybe, yeah.
But yeah. But I joined
I'm
your
just going
channel,
to
and I
send
don't
you
get
my
notifications
email.
when you post.
Oh, do you
Yeah, you're
get?
supposed
Do,
to get
do you
Yes,
get?
I'm going to
notified
send you.
email.
I'm going to send you my email so that you send me the link to your channel.
I
And
can
then-
send it
and
to you. I
then
have your email too.
It's over here. Click there. See that?
But if I click here, it brings me the Allspace channel.
Right.
You said you have a Discord channel.
That's on there too. Click there and scroll down.
Uh,
And there's a button to join Discord.
yes, there is.
Yep.
Yes, there is.
Okay, so I'm working on a
Humanism.
presentation for next time, if you're interested. I don't know if it'll actually happen, but I'm thinking about it. And it's called Wrestling with Morality. And I tend to be an evolutionary psychologist, archaeologist kind of guy. So I think our morality comes really from evolutionary pressures, but philosophers wrestle with things using a whole different terminology, of course. And so I'm putting together a presentation that, maybe I'll do that next month. We'll see. For those of you who are interested, I'm doing the microbiome presentation next Sunday at Red Bank Humanists, and they may stream it. So when they stream it, they use Zoom. So you might be able to see me do that lecture on Zoom. If you go to redbankhumanists.org, that's their website. There might be a way to Zoom it from there, get on their Zoom chat.
Once again,
And
Red Bank.
Red Bank, it's one, yeah, that's the name of the town, but it's Red Bank Humanists, one word. Um, REDBANK, humanists.org. Also, if they record it, they'll put it up on YouTube and you'll be able to grab it there too. So, did anybody here see that talk on the microbiome? Nobody?
I was going to come, but it's been such a temptation. I've been to an important meeting and I saw your meeting online. I'm like, no, I could have been there. But yeah, I had to attend another meeting. But I was really looking forward to it and actually shared it to my students because I have many nutritionists who could use that information because it's a really mind-blowing fact about the microbiome and how it controls our behavior.
Oh. Yep.
I'm definitely one
And
victim to
if
it.
you want a copy of that one, by the way, I'll post it for you on my Discord channel. Astro, were you going to say something?
No, I
No?
googled it.
I see.
I
Saw a
was
bubble.
just asking about what is microbiome, but I just googled it.
Oh. Yeah, it's important stuff. I
What
think the
is
two most...
microbiome?
What is microbiome? You have
Yeah.
3 pounds of microscopic creatures living in your large intestine. And
Oh yeah,
those
that's for sure.
microscopic creatures digest about 15% of the food you eat. That's where it gets digested, by those microbiota. And those microbiota produce 80% of the serotonin in your bloodstream. So if those microbiota are happy or unbalanced or not there or sick, then you will not get that serotonin. And that serotonin is the hormone that makes you feel good. So a lot of people are walking around feeling terrible and they don't know why. And it's because their gut microbiome is not healthy. And it does a lot of other things. It digests foods that contain tryptophan and not only produce serotonin, but melatonin as well. So there are a lot of people walking around who have sleep disorders and don't know why, and it's because their microbiome is sick. And it goes on and on. There are mental disorders that are associated with a sick microbiome. There are
Epigenetics?
behavior disorders that are associated with,
Infections.
the ability to fight off diseases can be caused or helped or not helped by your microbiome. And it's impacted by what you eat, what kind of soap you use, what kind of toothpaste you use, all kinds of factors, what you expose yourself to, just a ton of things. So, the talk is one of the most important talks I think I've ever done, because one thing about genetics is you can't change it, right? The DNA you're born with, you're stuck with. Epigenetics is something that affects you intergenerationally. So things that happen to you, you can pass on to your children because of epigenetics. And epigenetics are things that are triggered in your DNA that affect your behavior and how you digest and how you think and all sorts of things. And what works on your epigenetics is your microbiome. So your microbiome is really important, and it's something you can impact, just by eating the right stuff. Prebiotics, probiotics, and, so it's an important talk, because I go into all kinds of stuff in that have, definite impacts.
Yeah, I found the website that you told me about, but I brought it to Discord. We can discuss it there later. So yeah, I can get more context and more of your materials too, because it's so precious. You should share it more and call me every time so I could record it and upload it somehow.
I should call you up? Okay.
Yeah, this Saturday,
Well,
I'm still
send me your
thinking about
email.
the topic. So
Go
yeah,
to my Discord. Go to my Discord and send me your email. Drop your email there. And I know it's kind of dangerous to share your email in public like that, but it's just us. Nobody goes to my Discord who is, a creep, as far as I know.
exactly.
And if you do that, I'll create a mailing list and I'll mail you directly every time I do a talk, and I'll mail you anything you want, including, my slide deck and whatever. Okay? Anything else? We're getting on to 5 o'clock in my time zone.
I mean, I wanted to ask because this is about self-domestication and what I missed out of it. But at the same time, I was wondering, like, how are you so certain that self-domestication is the way? Since a lot of people have biases and even non-believers do crazy things, you know what I mean? Like some people
Yeah.
just believe that what they doing or what they doing is right, that's affecting others. So it creates a chain of consequences that we have to live in. Um, so how do you know for certain then the domestication of humans will happen in the rightful way?
Well, it's been happening, but we're not perfect yet, right? So we do a lot of imperfect things, and we have a lot of evolutionary baggage. A lot of the stuff we do because it worked 30,000 years ago. It worked 50,000 years ago. It's worked for hundreds of thousands of years. It may be something that we did 3 million years ago that worked. And because it worked 3 million years ago, it is so deep in our genetic makeup that it's almost impossible to overcome with our rationality. So, humans have been going through this as long as we've been thinking about anything. We've been wrestling with, the civilized, rational parts of ourselves and all this evolutionary baggage that we carry around. And the baggage has a tendency to win because it's been there a lot longer than we've been rational. We've only been rational per se for 170,000 years maybe.
Yeah.
That's when we became sapien.
What happened to
all that
the
evolutionary baggage that came for the 3, 4, 5 million years before that all worked, and that's why we're stuck with it. And if it didn't work, we wouldn't even be here. So you can say, well, being hierarchical is a curse, and in a lot of ways it is in a civilized society, but it worked. It worked really well, and so here it is. Yeah, but you're right. I mean, our brains, we humans give themselves credit for much more intelligence than we actually exhibit, and it's kind of depressing. Do you know what the Dunning-Kruger effect is? You familiar with that?
Yeah, I know.
Dunning-Kruger? Dunning-Kruger is, if you're stupid, you think you're the smartest guy in the room. But if you're the smartest guy in the room, you kind of think you're stupid. Because suppose I try to explain something to you about genetics, and you say, oh, don't bother, I know all about genetics, right? Fact is, you may know some things about genetics, but you don't know enough about genetics to know what you don't know about genetics. Because you don't know what you don't know, you think you know everything, right? So dumb people think they're really smarter than they are. But when you get really, really educated about genetics, you find out, wow, there's a lot more here that I don't get and that we haven't discovered, and it's all out there waiting to be discovered. And oh my God, I'm so stupid about it because I know that much. You realize how dumb you are. And that's the Dunning-Kruger effect. And we're all subject to that. And humanity as a species, I think we're all a lot dumber than we think we are about almost everything. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's also.
And we still keep getting dumber.
I don't think we're getting dumber. I think we're getting smarter, but it's a long, hard road. Okay. I'm going to cut out now. So again,
Yeah,
if anybody
thanks.
has any questions or thoughts, or you want a copy of my slide deck, contact me on my Discord, and hopefully I'll see you next month.
Thanks for the lecture. I gotta go too.
One
Bye.
more question. Wait,
Yeah, I'm gonna upload it to YouTube and share the screen to at least to what our discussion Q&A part was.
Okay. Go
So
ahead,
you're
Deborah.
basically saying that